What's up everyone, it's Stack Lessons here. Welcome back to the channel. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what the Amazon Web Services Certified Data Engineer Associate exam tests, how it's scored, and the study strategy that actually works. And you'll understand why this is widely considered the hardest associate-level Amazon Web Services certification on the market. We'll cover the format, the 4 domains, the 5 services that dominate, the trap that fails most candidates, and the full roadmap of this course. Here's the thing nobody tells you up front. When Amazon Web Services retired the Data Analytics Specialty exam in April 2024, they didn't delete the content, they rolled most of it into the Data Engineer Associate. Candidates who took both report 70 to 80% topic and service overlap. So you're walking into an exam that wears an associate badge, but carries specialty-level depth on services like Glue, Kinesis, and Redshift. Underestimate it and you fail. Think of it this way. If the Solutions Architect Associate is a driver's license, broad coverage, shallow depth, knowing how to handle most situations, then the Data Engineer Associate is more like a commercial trucking license. Same associate badge on the wall, but it expects you to actually know how the engine works on 5 specific trucks. On the left, Solutions Architect spans the whole Amazon Web Services surface area at fundamentals depth. On the right, Data Engineer narrows the topic to data, but goes deep, implementation level deep, on the services that matter. Straight from the official Amazon Web Services exam guide, here's what they say the exam tests. It validates your ability to implement data pipelines and to monitor, troubleshoot, and optimize cost and performance issues in line with best practices. Notice what's there and what's not. It's not asking you to recite features. It's asking you to build, operate, and tune real pipelines. That single sentence tells you exactly how to study. Here's my promise to you. This series is your primary study resource. It's built entirely on the official Amazon Web Services exam guide and the official Amazon Web Services documentation, no shortcuts, no third-party reinterpretations. Think of it like a guidebook written from the official Amazon Web Services map. Every trail in the exam guide has a marked path through this course. You don't need a second map. Throughout this series, we'll follow a fictional company called Nexer Retail. They're a growing online retailer, building their entire data platform on Amazon Web Services from scratch. You'll see real challenges, not isolated feature demos. Every concept lands inside their pipeline, not in a vacuum. Their first challenge is clickstream ingestion, capturing every user event from the website. Then comes warehouse analytics for business teams who need answers fast. And as they scale, PII governance becomes non-negotiable. Concepts stick when they stored inside a story. Let's talk format. You get 65 questions in 130 minutes, roughly 2 minutes per question. Every question is multiple choice or multiple response, no labs, no free response, and no coding. Of those 65, only 50 are scored. The other 15 are unscored pilot questions, mixed in invisibly. Your final result is a scaled score from 100 to 1000 with 720 as the passing line. That 2 minutes per question budget sounds generous until the scenarios start piling up and the clock starts pressing. Here it is in the official guide's own words. Results are reported as a scaled score of 100 to 1000, and the minimum passing score is 720. Note that this is a scaled score, not a raw percentage. Amazon Web Services adjusts for question difficulty across exam versions, so don't try to back-calculate how many questions you can miss. Aim to pass comfortably, not just clear the bar. And here's the rule about those 15 pilot questions. They don't affect your score, and Amazon Web Services uses them to evaluate questions for future exams. Think of it like a chef sneaking experimental dishes onto the tasting menu. You can't tell which plates are being trial tasted, so you cook every plate like a Michelin judge is watching. The takeaway is simple. You can never tell which 15 don't count, so treat every question as if it scores. No skimming, no rushing. Now here's something that should take pressure off you. The exam uses a compensatory scoring model. You do not need to pass each domain individually, you need 720 overall, period. Think of a decathlon, not a triathlon-style event where you must clear each leg. You can stumble in javelin if you crush the sprints. Only the total medal count matters. So if security and governance is your weakest area, that's fine. Strong performance on ingestion can carry you across the line. There are 4 domains and the weights matter. Domain 1, data ingestion and transformation, is the giant at 34%. Domain 2, data store management, is 26%. Domain 3, data operations and support, is 22%. Domain 4, data security and governance, is 18%. Your study time should roughly mirror these weights. Domain 1 alone is bigger than Domain 4 plus half of Domain 3 combined, so spend your hours where the points are. And here's the trap that catches most candidates. The Data Engineer Associate exam is scenario-based. Questions are framed as realistic business situations with multiple plausible architectures, and you have to reason about trade-offs. Memorizing service feature lists will not save you. You need to understand why a service is chosen for a given workload, not just what it does. Candidates who only watch videos consistently report failing. Candidates who actually build pipelines pass comfortably. If I had to scout only 5 Amazon Web Services for this exam, here they are. Glue, the extract transform load workhorse, shows up in task statements across nearly every domain. Redshift, the warehouse anchor, dominates domain 2. Athena, the serverless query layer, weaves through both ingestion and analysis. Kinesis is the streaming backbone for real-time pipelines. Lake Formation sits at the center of governance and domain 4. Think of them like the 5 starters on a basketball team who play 35 minutes a game. The bench matters, but if you only had time to scout 5 players, you'd scout the starters. These 5 touch the most exam guide task statements, which gives you the highest score per hour studied return on the entire exam. Don't take my word for it. Open the official Amazon Web Services exam guide and count. These bars show relative presence across the exam guide's task statements. Glue sits at the top, named explicitly in task statements across all 4 domains. Redshift comes next, anchoring the storage and analytics conversations. Lake Formation is central to governance language across domains 2 and 4. Athena follows on the query side, the serverless SQL engine over your lake. Kinesis matches it on the streaming side, handling real-time ingestion. These bars represent relative presence in the exam guide, not exact question counts. But the message is clear. Master these 5 and you've covered the ground that matters most. Now, I'm not going deep on any of these 5 right now. Each one earns its own dedicated episode later in the series, and Glue and Kinesis get more than one because the surface area is just that big. Right now, you only need to know the names, and that they sit at the center of the exam. Now here's the single biggest trap on this exam, the keyword qualifier. Picture a question stem describing a scenario with 4 answer choices. 2 or 3 of them will be technically correct architectures. The qualifier is the tiebreaker. On the left, when the qualifier says least operational overhead, your answer leans fully managed and serverless. Avoid self-managed clusters. Avoid custom code when a service exists. The I don't want a pager answer wins. On the right, same scenario, but the qualifier flips to most cost-effective. Now you're thinking spot instances, reserved capacity, S3 lifecycle policies, columnar formats. The cheapest viable answer wins. Same destination, different optimal route, like a GPS asking fastest versus avoid tolls. Burn this rule into your brain. When two answers are technically correct, the qualifier breaks the tie 100% of the time. Read the question stem twice, once for the scenario, once specifically to find the qualifier. Then read the answer choices through the lens of that qualifier. This single technique flips more failing scores into passing ones than any other tactic. So here's the journey ahead. We start with Glue Core, the service that touches more task statements than any other. Then the Glue Extended Ecosystem, crawlers, the data catalog, job bookmarks, and data brew. Then orchestration with step functions and MWAA, then streaming services, Kinesis, Firehose, MSK, and managed Flink. Then Athena querying, serverless SQL over your lake. And Redshift warehousing, covering architecture, distribution keys, and performance tuning. 6 stops, each one stacking on the last. Then we shift into storage and governance. S3 storage patterns, classes, lifecycle, partitioning, lake formation for fine-grained governance. Formats and compression, Parquet, Orc, Avro, Iceberg. DynamoDB for the data engineer, DMS and EMR for migration and big data patterns. And security and monitoring, IAM, KMS, CloudWatch, and CloudTrail. 6 stops that together cover how data lives, who can touch it, and how you prove it. The next stretch is all about quality and governance. Data quality with DQDL, Glue's rules engine for bad records, scoring, and alerts. PII detection with Macy, which scans S3 for sensitive data. Secondary services, QuickSight, OpenSearch, and a handful of others. In open source on Amazon Web Services, Spark, Flink, Kafka, Airflow, and Iceberg. The official exam guide explicitly names every single one of them, which is why we cover them directly rather than glossing over them. And one more thing about how this course is structured. At the 1/3 and 2/3 marks of the series, we'll pause for retrieval practice episodes. Memory research is clear. Pulling information back out of your head locks it in far better than passively rewatching. So before we stack new layers on top, we'll make sure the earlier material is solid. Let's contrast the two paths. On the left, why people fail. They treat this like the solutions architect exam and study too shallow. They memorize feature lists instead of practicing scenarios. They skim past the qualifier on the first read. They panic over one-week domain instead of trusting the overall score. And they skip open source topics, assuming this is purely an Amazon Web Services exam. On the right, why people pass. They respect the specialty level depth from day one. They practice scenario reasoning by building real pipelines. They read the qualifier first every single time. They trust the compensatory model. And they study Iceberg, Spark, Kafka, and Airflow because the official exam guide explicitly names all of them. Here's your game plan in 5 points. Treat every question as scored because you can't tell the pilots apart. Read the qualifier before the answer choices every single time. Weight your study time roughly to the domain weights, 34, 26, 22, 18. Master the big 5 first since they touch nearly every task statement. And remember, this course covers everything in the official exam guide. That's the full plan. Up next, we start with the service that appears more than any other, Amazon Web Services Glue. And that's a wrap on the Amazon Web Services Certified Data Engineer